Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So has Sony cut the forecasted number of PlayStation VR2 systems they plan to ship? And the Xbox Series X and S see a price increase? We have those topics and more to cover, but before we get started, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, and we can keep you up to date with some gaming news. Now let's get started. First, we have this story here coming from Bloomberg. It says, Sony slashes PlayStation VR2 headset output after pre-orders disappoint. Now, the PlayStation VR2 got announced last year, and it took a really long time for Sony to announce how much it was going to cost. Obviously, they wanted to build hype for this before people kind of got the sticker shock. And I think Sony knew that the high price would be a limiting factor for a lot of people to be able to pick this up. Now, the article here says the company halved its forecast for shipments, and that's important, of the PlayStation VR2, which is set for a February 22nd release this quarter to about 1 million units, said people familiar with its deliberations. Sony had previously aimed to have 2 million headsets ready for the launch quarter and leveraging its second generation headset to drive user growth and adoption for VR. Now, words are a very important thing, especially when you're conveying news in an article like this, which is why I wanted to point out the fact that it said they halved their forecast of shipments. Because, of course, after this article came out, Sony released a statement to GameIndustry.biz, and the article quotes a statement from Sony here saying, seeing enthusiasm from PlayStation fans for the upcoming launch, which includes more than 30 titles such as Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Call of the Mountain, and Resident Evil Village. Now, this quote here doesn't really mention anything at all about cutting any shipments or anything of that matter, but the headline in the article does say that Sony stated that they have not cut PlayStation VR2 production numbers. Now, both things can be true. You cannot cut your production numbers, but you could cut your forecasted shipments. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to the logistics of shipping and production, and I know we are more or less in a world of just-in-time production where pretty much something gets produced and it goes right out the door. However, Sony could sit on units and not ship them out, but go ahead and produce them. And of course, this is speculation on my part, and we don't really know what the actual truth is just yet. So I guess you can kind of read whatever you want to out of both of these stories. Now, I could find it pretty easy to believe that Sony could cut their forecasted number of shipments. There's a lot of things with the PlayStation VR that kind of leave a bad taste in my mouth. One, there's no backward compatibility with the first PlayStation VR. And if there is, it'll require a patch to fix, and most likely that's going to be a game that's resold for PlayStation VR2. Another drawback in the VR market is that you have to have a PlayStation 5 in order to be able to use this, where you don't have to have that with some other units like the Meta Quest. There's also a lack of must-have titles, even though they mention Gran Turismo 7 and Horizon Call of the Mountain. A lot of people really aren't excited about the VR versions or prospects of those games. But as I pointed out earlier, I think the biggest drawback is the cost. At $549, you add that into the cost of the PlayStation 5, and you're around $1,000 just to get a VR setup. And with VR still pretty much a niche market, there's not a lot of people that are going to just plop down that much money for a VR experience that's very limited on titles. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Sony has cut their predicted shipment numbers by half? And this little statement is just some PR wordsmithing? Or do you think maybe the PlayStation VR2 is going to run gangbusters and just sell out of every unit they make? Next, we have some Xbox news that's kind of disappointing for players in Japan. We have the headline here from Gamatsu. Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S price increase announced for Japan. Now, the console is going to be going up by 5,000 yen on February 17th. Now, traditionally, to find the equivalent price of a yen in dollars, you just move the decimal 2 places to the left, so this would be about $50. However, the yen hasn't been doing very well against the dollar recently, so as of the recording of this video, it's closer to an increase of about $65. And the article here has a statement from Microsoft Japan. After carefully evaluating the market conditions in Japan, we have decided to change the suggested retail price of Xbox consoles in the country. We regularly evaluate the impact of local pricing to maintain reasonable consistency across regions. This price revision affects our customers and was a difficult decision to make, but going forward we will continue to provide the ultimate Xbox experience that our customers expect. And Sony increased the price of the PlayStation 5 by about the same amount back in September of last year. However, the price increase for the PlayStation 5 wasn't just in Japan, it also happened in the UK, in Europe, China, Australia, Mexico, Canada, and several other regions. So I do have to wonder if the Xbox Series X and S might not see a price increase in these regions in the not too distant future. And the Xbox isn't the biggest seller in Japan, it's usually third in a 3-way race between the consoles. And with the PlayStation 5 already going up by about the same amount, I don't expect this to really make a difference in the Xbox sales numbers, except for maybe in the next few weeks there may be some people who were debating buying one and just go ahead and buy it in order to save about $65. So we'll keep an eye on the Famitsu sales over the next few weeks to see if we see kind of an artificial spike in those Xbox sales numbers. And finally, we have this exclusive article here from IGN. Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony won't be part of E3 2023. Now, earlier we had the announcement that E3 was returning to the Los Angeles Convention Center in June, and it would now be ran by ReedPop, who runs events like New York Comic Con, PAX, Star Wars Celebration, and many others. Now, the article stating that the big three won't be part of E3, what exactly does that mean? Well, the article here says, however, it appears that when E3 2023 hits the Los Angeles Convention Center in June, it will be without 3 of the most important draws. IGN has heard from multiple knowledgeable sources that Xbox, Sony, and Nintendo won't be part of E3 2023 or have a presence on the Los Angeles Convention Center show floor. So if this is true, that doesn't mean that none of the big three won't have some kind of online presentation that week, it just means they won't have a floor presence at E3. There still could be some online presentations, or like in the past, Microsoft's held a completely separate event in a nearby venue. But if we look at how all 3 of these companies have adapted over the last few years without an E3, they probably see it as something they don't really need anymore. They can do their own online presentations. With Nintendo, we have the Nintendo Direct, and Sony has their State of Play, and I think Microsoft has a pretty good format now with this new Developer Direct. So what would become of E3 without the big three? But with ReedPop being in charge of E3 now, it makes me wonder, could we see it sort of transition more into that pop culture style convention like PAX and Star Wars Celebration? Because if you remember the announcement for E3 coming up this year, the last 2 days are going to be dedicated to consumers, calling it Gamer Days. So after the event is over, let's say ReedPop sees a huge success with Gamer Days, maybe they may be more apt to move the event in that direction. So they could still have industry guests come in and perform panels, but it could possibly not be so much of like this industry networking show that it has been in the past. But let me know what you think. Do you think that E3 might move in this direction if they don't have the big three there? Or do you think that E3 could continue to survive using basically third-party developers? And that's all we have for today. Did anything we cover catch your attention? Do you think we could see a price increase in the US for the Xbox or the PlayStation systems? And do we really need an event like E3 anymore, where basically the big three can just put out their own presentations online? Make sure to drop a comment about those topics or anything else we covered today. And just a little side note, yes, I haven't done a video in a while. Life got pretty busy. I'd gotten sick, and it was kind of hard just to get back into creating videos when you're out sick for a week. So I took some time off, and now I want to get back into the swing of things. I don't know if I'll get a video out every single weekday. Most of it's going to depend on how much time I have, and I'm not going to target a certain release time anymore like I did before. I guess a little of how the sausage is made. I would usually record the video the day before and then schedule it to go up at 8 a.m. the next day. Well, unfortunately, a lot of times things change overnight, and I'd have to go in and kind of try to edit the video at 10 o'clock at night and fix some things or add some things that had changed. So in order to avoid that, I'm just going to release the video just as soon as I get done with it. So you'll probably see it in the afternoon, 5-6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, but it could be even later than that, just depending on what I have going on in my life. And if I don't see anything really worthy to talk about, I may just not do a video for the day at all. So since this channel is just a hobby of mine, I don't make any money off of it. I'm just going to pretty much do it whenever I feel motivated. I do enjoy talking about these different stories and articles and kind of keeping up with the industry. And then I'll probably throw in some more reviews that I haven't done in a while. I had several that I had started to do, but just couldn't find the time to do them. But if you're still listening at this point in the video, drop a comment and let me know if you do enjoy these type of videos. And if you like the format I have where I put maybe 3 or 4 things into one video and cover them all in one video, rather than splitting them up into like 3 or 4 minute videos. So until the next video I release, I want to thank you for watching and be good.